Giuliano and Massimiliano de Serio, it's so great to have you here, and it's so great to have your film at the festival. It has the official international title Una Promessa. It's called, if I pronounce it right, Scappa Pietre and the Stonebreaker.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know,
Spacca Pietre.
Spacca Pietre. Okay, so maybe, you know, just start with the genesis of this title. You know, how did you find this title for your films, or the ambivalence between these titles?
The first title, the original one, Spacca Pietre, was born when we thought about this film suddenly at the beginning, because the protagonist of the film used to be a stonebreaker today, and his father was an old stonebreaker, as our grandfather was in the 50s, before coming here in the north of Italy, doing the factory worker. So Spacca Pietre, it means stonebreaker, and it's the job of the protagonist before the film started. So is linked to his own background and also our family background. Then with the international distributor, we decided to give this other title, that it's Una Promessa, because it's an Italian title that also is good for an international audience. Una promessa, it's also una promessa, un promise, a promise, and it's, for us, it was okay because it's something that let the public think to the second phase of the film. One was more hard, Stonebreaker, and the other one is related to the future of the protagonist. So this promise was for us was very important to put it in the center of the film, and so we decided to give this second title for the film. We are also twins, so it's nice to have two different titles, Italian titles.
One for each other.
Yeah. We are also very different. Because,
and we are also divided in ourselves in other pieces.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say there are these two sides of the film, and I would like to talk about that later, but just hearing, you know, your grandfather was a stonebreaker, and I think, so there's a personal connection to the story, but I think I also read there's an actual historic story event you heard or read about. This is the basis for the script you wrote. Is that right?
Yes, it's right. When we read about the death of this young woman in a few years ago, she was a field worker under the exploitation of the owners. Our memory suddenly went to our grandmother. She died in the same area and in the same conditions, but 70 years ago. So these two facts, one more linked to the contemporary issue of the exploitation of the workers in the fields, in the countryside, in the south of Italy, and the other one more linked to our personal experience and biography, pushed us to write this story that is a kind of elaboration of this death.
Okay, and you said it was actually in the area because you know, the landscape, you know, it's one of these films where one says the landscape is one of the protagonists, I guess, you know, and it's so beautifully shot. Could you tell a bit about the specifics of this landscape, and to shoot at this landscape and to have this story there at this place, at this space?
Yeah, thanks. landscape for us was very important. It's a double meaning landscape, because we used to go to the south of Italy in this region, the Apulia, it's called Apulia, and because of our family origin. So we went there every year. I remember during the summer or in the holidays with our family. And so it's also a landscape of our memory. But when we started to go deep inside of this subject and writing the film, we came back to this region and we discovered the hidden landscape of this region. That it's also a hidden landscape of our soul, of our family soul, I don't know, family history. And so we discovered, for example, the exploitation of the workers, but also the ghettos that still exist in a lot of ghettos in very different between each other. For example, a little ghetto or the big sort of town into the landscape that are built and destroyed in a season. And so we start to write this film also as a portrait of a landscape. Also, there is another kind of origin of our movie, that it's more linked to a picture, that it's a French picture by Courbet, Gustave Courbet, that was destroyed by during the Second World War, that it's called Les Casseurs de Pierre, the Stonebreaker. And in this picture that it doesn't exist anymore, we could see two workers, two stonebreaker, a young and an old one, during their work, surrounded by a landscape. But it's strange because this landscape, there is no horizon. It's like a cage, like a prison for the two bodies. And so this was a source of inspiration also for our images, how to shoot the landscape.
Yeah. And, obviously you worked together with Antoine Heberle, a great director of photography. And I think it's very special when you talked earlier about the two sides of the film. On the one hand, it's shot very dark and gloomy, the atmosphere. It's very tightened. It's one could really feel it. But on the other hand, the landscape is so beautiful, and the relationship with the boy and his father is so great. Could you tell us a bit about how you achieved that and your work with your DOP?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's right. I mean, we decided to follow these two different paths in a narrative line, but also aesthetically, because they are two faces of the same tragedy. In one side, we have a kind of noir gender, a kind of violent and also, I mean, very close, very dark, and without hope, we can say. On the other hand, we have this strong relationship that is full of tenderness and bring the story through another dimension that maybe is more inner or spiritual, but give a little light in this night journey. So we decided together with the DOP, Antoine Berlet, we decided to choose a ratio, a format very close. It's 1:66, and that gives this cage to the images. But at the same time, so it's a kind of claustrophobic, but at the same time, let the protagonists, let they stay together, always together, and so they can hug each other. So this very simple solution helped us to give to the viewer this double face of the movie. And then also the photography follow a kind of journey during the process of the narration, and starts in a more lightly and sunny atmosphere, even in the tragedy, but it always goes into the dark. And all the last sequence is a long night.
Yeah, and the last sequence then kind of abruptly is really graphic. You know, it's really violent, and I felt you talked about the film noir, and I think there's a showdown, but it's not like a Western. It really has a horror aspect to it. I felt like it, yeah. And on the other hand, of course, as you said, there is always the hope for future, what this title Una Promessa, you know, reflects. So I think it's a very strong and ambivalent ending.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, this kind of horror side, but also the tender relationship between father and son is also something that we thought about during our writing, and also because one of the protagonists is a child, and a 9 years boy as Anto in the film. We asked ourselves how he can watch the reality around him. How can we listen to the word of the father? We answered us that it's a kind of tail dimension. The children dimension is always a sort of atmosphere between always a horror atmosphere, and also a fable and hope atmosphere. So this kind of also power of imagination is always between these two lines, and so we keep this sort of equilibrium between the two for every kind of choice that we made in the film. So the very end of the film is a run into the night, but it's also a run toward the light, and it's made by the gaze of a child. So maybe we can't understand, and we also gave to the young actor all the freedom to play this scene. So he runs, and at the same time he watched beside him and behind him. So it's very himself in that moment.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, the chemistry between the two actors, the father and the son, acting the father and the son, is really amazing, and it's really touching. And you know, but apart from their performance and you directing them, there are two connections, film historical connections I saw. The one thing is this kind of poetic realism, and the other thing is I really very strongly felt reminded to the Italian neorealism. And you know, especially bicycle thieves, ladri di bicicletta. So you know, are these strong influences for you? Is this something you worked out in your concept?
I think that, I mean, it is a source of inspiration, but we never thought about during the writing process and during the preparation of the movie. But we knew that this couple, father and son, in a, I mean, in a very difficult situation of poverty and familiar drama, we thought that it's a very common topos of neorealism and Italian cinema in general. So we found it like an archetypal spot where we can start from to go in another atmosphere and another direction. And I mean, I don't know if the result was in this way, but I think that our effort was that of emancipate this first level of narration to another one that is more inside the protagonist and also they want to play also with the genders.
Yeah. You know, maybe coming to a conclusion, in the beginning you talked about this, this is quite special. You know, it's, of course, there are other brothers, Taviani brothers, and so working together, you're twins. And you're doing films together, I think, for 17, 18 years already now. Could you a bit talk about the process of you not only being twins, but, you know, working a collaboration between two directors? How is this process? How does this work for you on the set?
But I can say that it's not simple because it's more complicated that we can imagine because you know, time goes on and families, so it's not simple. But in the same time, we can say that for us, working together means maybe to stay still together, where, like when we were two little babies. So it's also a way to play together. In the same time, it's a way to maybe take care one of the other, and so to be more sure when we are working, that we are directing, and we are writing a story. So it's just a way to live, and for the moment we keep this like our dimension. I don't know if my brother is agree.
No, I'm not agree. I'm not agree. Yes, I agree.
Well, you know, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for this very strong and emotionally touching film.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and also all the staff festival, and also for the virtual audience. And good luck for everything. Thanks. We hope to keep in touch and maybe to meet in the future, next edition of the festival.
I'm sure we'll do so.
Yes. Thank you, Sasha.
Thank you.